So I decided to come down to the beach here today. I thought it would be a great place to self-isolate, and it turns out I don't have the beach to myself. I thought I might because sometimes there's not a lot of people on this beach, but there's quite a few people down here today. I think a lot of people thought this would be a great place to come, where they have to stay home from school and work, having to isolate with this pandemic. And what a great choice. It's such a beautiful place to be today, and it's easy to keep your distance from other people. Personally, I've been feeling a bit stressed out by this pandemic, and I was in desperate need of a bit of beach therapy. If you look there, somebody even built an inukshuk on the beach. It's amazing. So as a retired psychologist, I thought I'd talk to you for just a few minutes today about coping with stress, because we're living in stressful times. This pandemic is crazy. It has just hit Nova Scotia, so a lot of you have probably you've been dealing with this for a bit, whereas we're just dealing with it now. Oh my heavens, there was just this loud crash of ice that fell off the side of the cliff. Maybe that's what you heard when you heard that big bang. Anyway, I'm staying away from the cliff so I don't get hit with ice. So I thought I would just bring up a few things for you to think about in helping you cope with this pandemic. Number one, this is stressful. Whether you're afraid of getting sick, and that's a bigger fear for people with underlying health issues, and we're worried about our little people in our life, we're worried about the elderly people in our life. So there's that fear of getting sick, and if we get sick, how are we going to cope with that, and yada, yada, yada. Nobody wants to get sick. So that's a tough one. The other thing is the whole financial part of it. If you're in a job where you're salary protected, that's great. But let's face it, a lot of people aren't. If you don't work, you don't get paid. And then we all have bills. We have to pay our bills. So the whole financial part of it's really stressful. And don't even get me started on people who are living off investment income. That's a whole other story. So that can be really stressful as well. And then there's the whole bit about being socially isolated. We're being told to stay home, don't go to work, don't go to school, don't go to your fun things like your groups and where you see people and connect with people. So we're all kind of alone. So that can be really stressful as well. Plus, what are we going to do with our time? Because we're not able to do all our usual activities of daily living. So I think it's really important to look at how is this affecting you personally, and give yourself permission to be stressed, because this is a stressful thing to be dealing with. And it's normal to feel a lot of turmoil and stress. So the second point that I would make is that keep yourself informed about what's going on. There's lots going on in the news. There's lots of information on the internet about what to do if you get sick, how to avoid getting sick. There's so much information. But I would encourage you to limit the amount of time you spend watching the news and reading stuff on the internet. I have to admit, I'm not modeling good behavior. Yesterday, I spent way too much time watching TV and looking up stuff on the internet, and it just kind of got me keyed up and more stressed. So it's really important to limit your time doing that. A little bit of time just to make sure you know the facts is important, but don't overdo it. It's a little bit much. So my third point is to reach out to people. Even though we're physically isolated from people, there's still the phone, there's all the social media, there's a way to connect with people and make sure that you're not feeling too isolated. And and if you need help, reach out and ask for help. Like if you feel like you can't get to the grocery store, reach out and ask someone to drop some stuff off to you. And the other thing, if you feel you can help other people, reach out and help people. If you know somebody that needs some extra help, you'll feel better for helping other people as well. So stay connected with people. Even though we're kind of getting ourselves socially isolated, we do need to keep those contacts, and we need to ask for help and give help. So that's a really important thing to do. So the fourth point that I would make is that you need to reassure yourself that this too will pass, and that there is going to be a time when life will get back to normal. And in the meantime, I can handle this. So keep telling yourself, this is going to be over and I can handle it while it's going. And one of the ways to convince yourself that you can handle this is to look at the tough things that you've already dealt with in life, because we've all had some tough stuff. And when tough stuff happens, sometimes it feels like you're never going to get through it. But look at some of that tough stuff that's happened to you in the past and look at how you've handled it and how you have gotten through it, and life does get back to normal eventually. Maybe not always, depending on how tough that tough stuff is. But this one is hopefully going to get back to normal. It may take a while, but it will get back to normal. And then the fifth point that I was going to make is that we need to do therapy for ourselves. Like me, today I was too stressed out, so I came down to the beach because the beach for me is so therapeutic. And I like to do sea glass art. As if you follow me on my channel here, you know I love to do sea glass art, and that's so therapeutic. So I think I better go home and do some art as well. So for you, figure out what is it that's therapeutic for you. If you can get yourself involved in your hobbies and spend time doing that, and do things that are going to be pleasant and calming for you. Maybe you want to watch a movie, read a book. I'm reading Michelle Obama's book, What an Amazing Woman. Shouldn't we really celebrate amazing women in our world? She is quite amazing. So read a good book, watch some good TV, play games with your family, people that you don't have to be isolated from. And, really do those things that really help you feel good and help you feel better. Have some good treats, even though you maybe don't want to overdo it on the treats, especially the sweet food and alcohol and stuff like that. But a little bit of it, it's good. We got to take good care of ourselves during these difficult times. So be sure to have fun and really try to enjoy yourself when you're not wrapped up with all the stressful stuff. So there's my psychology hat. Now I'm going to take it off again, and I'm going to go for my beach walk, and I hope that you can really find some time to get to the beach, and if you can't, come along with me and we'll have a great beach walk and hopefully feel better for it. The capes along the shore here are so cool, especially at this time of year, because a lot of the water that's been running down freezes, so you get kind of like these frozen little waterfalls on the sides of the capes. It's really cool. It's quite the beautiful beach here. There's not a lot of sea glass along here. I find we're on the Bay of Fundy, kind of towards the top of the Bay of Fundy. So we get all these really high tides, high and low. It's on its way out now, so it's fairly low. But with those high tides, and you don't get the rolling waves and stuff, the glass doesn't tend to get tossed really nicely to get nice, softly finished sea glass. The striations in the cliff here are so amazing. It's just so neat to see those formations. And there's some more waterfalls that have all frozen. Very cool. So the beach here is made up mostly of shale rock. Whenever the tides come in and out, it tends to pull off a little bit of the cape, and it breaks down into big chunks and little chunks of shale rock. One thing I do find quite a bit along here are pieces of rock that have this type of crystallized stuff in them, and those are really cool. Like, that's a really neat rock. I don't tend to use things like that in my art just because they're too big, but they're fun to find and look at. The beach down here is so beautiful, and on an overcast day like this, it's really kind of eerie, but I just love it. Those capes are so amazing, but with that water dripping out and freezing, it really adds a lot of interest to the cape, that's for sure. Every once in a while I'll hear some pieces of rock drop down. I'd say this type of weather isn't good for the erosion here. With the water, don't know if you heard that, a big rock just fell, just as I was talking about that. This time of year things are starting to thaw. Spring is supposed to arrive, although I think somebody forgot to tell Nova Scotia that spring was coming, because it's not here yet. There's this area along the beach here where you see all that big rock. I'd say that used to be a cape that probably stretched right out into the water, and over the years the erosion has eaten away at it until all that's left is some rock along the beach. But it's just beautiful down here today. It's really good for the soul, that's for sure. There's some more rocks falling. I don't know if you can hear them. A little bit of erosion taking place today. It's so amazing to see what nature can do with all that dripping water turning to ice. And now today, because it's above zero, it's thawing out a little bit and dripping. So it's really quite incredible to look at and to hear the running water as bits are dripping onto the shore. There's quite a bit of this white granite that's embedded in with all the shale rock. So sometimes little pieces of that break off and they're cool to pick up to use in my art. But I love looking at the great big bits of it. See how you get lines of it going through that gray rock? It's so pretty. Now look at this. This is really cool. I hardly ever see things like this. This rock here, I don't know if you can tell on the video, but it's like it's fossilized roots or weeds or something. I'll often find a piece of petrified wood on our beach, but this is like a fossilized root or something. It's very cool. Way too big to pick up and take home. Like if I tried to pick that up, it's too heavy for me to even lift. This is what I mean when I say that a lot of people find fossils along this beach. So my walk has come to an end. I didn't find any sea glass. I don't usually find sea glass along this beach, and when I do, sometimes it's okay, but it's not usually great sea glass. I am, however, taking home a handful of treasures, taking home a few rocks, some good squarish and rectangular ones for my inukshuks. And I'm also taking home a much better sense of peace and calm than I arrived at the beach with. I hope you enjoyed your walk with me today, and until next time, please take good care of yourself. And if you can, get to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting.